Has anyone here ever initiated a conversation with a homeless person? How about someone who was sitting all alone in a pub? Brilliant! Today, I'll share how lots of banter, a story from the Viking era, and other life experiences have helped me to discover the profound power of conversational leadership. Before we continue, I'd like to put light on 3 words and one more technical term that make the foundations of my talk. The first word is conversation, something we all should initiate during our lives and careers. Second word is community, and a third word, leadership. Those 3 words all resonate with how we can initiate profound conversations in my experience. There's also another thing that is needed for this: psychologically safe spaces. Growing up, I experienced how important leaders were to initiate conversations, build communities, and create those safe spaces. I was raised in what was considered a traditional workers' neighborhood in my hometown of Bergen. When it was all new, the inhabitants were often placed together in newly established housing associations, as the system worked back then. Without a neighborhood culture and several residents that did not know each other beforehand, friction began early on. My street was considered a troubled area with a disreputable reputation during its formative years. Something had to be done. The first step towards solving the neighborhood problem was inspired by an English concept: a community house. Such a house was built where all the residents and visitors could meet up, socialize, and host activities in a welcoming space. With this initiative and continuous work to create a community culture, the neighborhood's fortune changed for the better within a decade. Today, it is considered a safe and indeed a welcoming street in Bergen. And that's because someone took the initiative and started talking with neighbors to ignite the start of a community. Something that's relevant for contemporary bad neighborhood cases as well. I further experienced the importance of conversational leadership when my educational journey began. When I started at primary school, my class had a terrific environment that I was part of. Being a rather creative and curious kid that asked lots of questions, I was not afraid to challenge established norms. Such, I got into trouble frequently. And when this happened, I had conversations with my parents, teachers, and peers. Through those, in most cases, we found resolutions. However, when I transferred to lower secondary school, my time there was characterized by a completely different environment and culture. Friction and problems that were occurred at school were rarely talked about or resolved. This led to headlines in local newspapers about pupils quitting due to severe bullying, or that the police interfered to stop fights between the pupils. Another thing that did not help to improve the situation was the pupils' value was now mostly defined by the grades. The higher grades, the better value. Things that were not graded, like inclusion, collaboration, or interpersonal skills, were not valued. People who do not feel that their contributions are valued will not feel included. When I transferred to upper secondary school, this pattern became even more prevalent. With classes for 8 hours each day, the pupils did not have much time or energy to build a community unless they had found their social cliques early on. And teachers or admin staff did not have much time to do this either. The job was left for pupils to do themselves. If you're not given a chance to join conversations, it becomes hard to become part of your community. And those mechanisms occur not only educational system, they exist in work life as well. One of the most prevalent reasons for employees to resign and for turnover to happen nowadays is that people do not feel like they truly belong where they're at. Upon my graduation, after 6 years of rarely feeling part of any community, I had no motivation to continue my education. And so I joined the Air Force. Here, your grades and previous value were irrelevant. We were all in the same boat under the same leaders. It was necessary to have conversations to get to know each other and support each other during ups and downs in military life. We focused on our strengths and filled out each other's improvement points. A true soldier leaves no one behind. Upon discharging, it was time for another shot at education. Unlike secondary school, it was easy for me to make friends with my subject peers at university. However, student organizations were not notably inclusive, operating with rather selective policies and requiring loyalty. There was also a distance between students and lecturers, with minimal interactions during lectures, tutorials, or admin meetings. In a system that does not encourage conversation, it is hard to learn and grow. Such, it was inevitable that several students felt left out socially, and as a consequence, dropped out. And my motivation declined as well. I struggled to get up in the morning and began skipping lectures. For some time, my only incentive to attend campus was to meet my study peers for coffee. My grades were hitting rock bottom. Something had to be done. And so I decided to apply to study abroad, and I was accepted, and the Republic of Ireland became my new home for a year. And through this move, everything changed for me. Education-wise, grade-wise, and conversation-wise. The Irish are extremely chatty, and I mean this as a good thing. Being raised on rather reclusive Norwegian norms, going into a grocery shop and having a 10-minute conversation with an employee before leaving was quite out of character for me. I had several conversations, not only with international students and staff from all around the world, but also with my lecturers. Before every new module commenced, lecturers always shook hands with and greeted all the new students and introduced us to today's subject. And then an opposite classroom that the students led themselves started. We were sitting together in groups and shared our experiences and unique perspectives. And when the lecture was over, the classes and the lecturers as well went out for coffee and continued the conversation, also about non-curricular things. Through those conversations, both students and the lecturers and admin staff learned new things. Studying at Minute, I learned that the word leadership hails from Norwegian. You see, when the Vikings were traveling across the sea to explore the world, they swapped between different roles on each ship along the way, and they talked with each other to learn and grow. And when the ships were sailing in a convoy, they all had the chance to lead the direction throughout this. And the ship in the very front was referred to as the leadership. And when I started to play rugby, I learned even more about leadership, teamwork. I'd barely touched a rugby ball before. On my first training, the experienced players simply told me and the other new guys, "You'll learn a game as you play." And I made several mistakes. But I considered those as part of my learning curve. And eventually, I became the first ever Norwegian to play a match for the university team. Everyone had a chance to play. And we talked, or so I say, shouted with each other during trainings and matches, and enjoyed a nice banter during dinners after each match. And this created a team spirit to remember. There was also another aspect of Irish society that brought new opportunities for conversations. The pub. Please, just pause for a second, folks. Think about that word, pub. Short for public house. A house for everyone. A gold mine for great conversations. You arrive on a pub alone, and you leave the place with 5 new friends within a couple of hours. As you can imagine, I was worried how things would turn out in Norway after my year abroad. It turned out quite well. And why was that? I'd found a new drive for my conversations abroad. A drive that I've maintained to this day. And I keep on initiating conversations. We all should. Just think of this. When times of adversity occur, you must not underestimate how important those conversations can be. During COVID-19, I did my master's at Trinity College, and I never met my classmates in person for a single lecture. But we had hundreds of hours of online conversations and enjoyed a crack studying in a digital format. And we finally had a chance to talk in person after the pandemic at our graduation. I've never had so many conversations during one day in my life. And in my educational and professional life, I keep on initiating conversations to learn and grow. During my startup years, I've been doing digital nomading across Europe and actively search for open venues and events to meet new people to talk with. I met homeless people searching for new opportunities. I met young pupils on field trips with the schools, curious about the world, and adventurers with insightful stories to share, just to name a few. Conversations that create awareness and inspire new ideas, particularly when talking with people we might not typically interact with, from different backgrounds and walks of life than your own. We open up to a world of unexpected, invaluable insights. In the fast-paced world we are living in today, there is limited time for those conversations. I've learned this from my grandparents, who prioritized time for those. We are missing something there. At my co-working space, a colleague of mine was told that he should reduce the number of coffee meetings he was having with potential collaborators and customers. He was told that such meetings were not cost efficient nor measurable. My colleague, he thought those conversations were indeed important to know new people and get an understanding of what they would like to achieve. This provided value for him, but the value could not be measured. And lots of contemporary measurements on performance are based on KPIs, key performance indicators, that is, despite the criticism against those. What if we could measure the value from conversations? I thought about this, and I created a new metric, the CCO, the coffee conversation outcome. A brand new metric to measure the value of coffee meetings and the conversations you just had. The CCO metric works like this. You prioritize and initiate conversations with others. You enjoy nice chats in safe and welcoming spaces, and you show genuine interest for the conversationalists. You ask questions, and all of you share experiences and perspectives. And after the conversation, you can rate how valuable it was for you. Focus on what all of you have learned and add this information to the KPIs. However, keep in mind that not everything you learn can be transferred to a metric. Life lessons are difficult to measure, but are always valuable for your journey onwards. And through those genuine conversations, we experience growth as leaders and as human beings when everyone are seen, heard, and valued. Would you like to meet up for a cup of coffee and further conversations? I'm up for it.